Oh boy. What's the problem? That's the second time we lost to the Kraken. Time to release the Kraken. Well, guess what? The Kraken certainly defended the deep. Penguins, Kraken starts right now on this episode of Penguins postgame. Penguins and Kraken. Let's see how the Penguins fared this time around. It starts right now.
You're locked in to Penguins Hockey on the Sports for Beginners podcast. Sidney Crosby and the Penguins play here on the Sports for Beginners podcast. Hey, showcase scores! The bingo game is ready to roll. Welcome to Penguins postgame. PPG for PGH. And you'd have to be here to believe it. Here is your host, Scott McGregor.
Kraken 4, Penguins 1. Oh boy. Oh boy. For some game, for a game that is, for a game that, you know what? Let's just get into it. For a game that doesn't show you any scoring in the first period, I wasn't seeing many scoring opportunities or many scoring goals by the Penguins in that third period, especially after Crosby got one goal right after the Kraken took the game's early lead in the second period of this game. Speaking of that, we'll get to it all in a little bit. Couple of programming notes here. We will be doing pre-recorded post-game and pre-game for the Bills and the Chiefs on Sunday, Championship Sunday. It's all going to be here on the ice and behind the benches, and of course on Sports for Beginners podcast, where you are hearing this episode of Penguins postgame right now. A couple of good notes here for you right now, besides our scratches. We'll get to those a little bit later. The Penguins have recalled rookie forward Buka Ama. Buka Amama from the AHL of Wilkes-Barre Scranton. They made a move to recall him for this game. He would make his Pittsburgh debut in this one after Owen Pickering is sent to Wilkes-Barre Scranton. And this is not his NHL debut, it's his Penguins debut in this one. No Blake Lizotte for the Penguins in this game, as he was out against the Ducks on Thursday night in Anaheim, and would not play this afternoon, considering the game was at 1 p.m. Eastern on the Pacific time zone and 4 p.m. Eastern here in the Eastern side. So 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern. We'll talk more about the time zones in the next 5 games when we get you ready for what's coming up for the Kraken and what's coming up for the Penguins. Also, he was out with an illness. Blake Lizotte was out with an illness. Penguins also did not have Brian Rust, suffered an injury. They were also without Pierre-Olivier Joseph as one of the scratches. I'll get to the Seattle scratches a little bit later. Penguins forward Evgeny Malkin, we understand, exited this game against the Kraken with a lower body injury and was on the Penguins bench before heading into the locker room, and he would not return to the game. All right. With that all being said, we took some time to go over some notes here. I'll go to the Kraken scratches in a little bit, but before we get to that, it's time for the opening moments of the program here that we took some notes up. Bring it to you right off the jump. Dan Bylsma taking the head coaching duties for the Seattle Kraken. And of course, we would see once again Joey Decord get the start for the Kraken. Got the start in the last game. Now he's going to get the start in this one. Philip Grubauer getting the start in backup for the Kraken in this one. Alex Nedeljkovic, the backup in this game for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And the goaltender is rookie goaltender Joel Blomqvist. Make no mistake about it. I know he gave up a goal on the power play and 3 goals at even strength, 4 goals to the exact. But hey, I don't blame Joel Blomqvist. I thought he was playing okay. I thought he played okay at Climate Pledge Arena. But yes, our matchup between the Pipes is Joey Decord and Joel Blomqvist. We'll get into all the final numbers in a little bit. But first, why don't we take some time in our opening segment and get into our penalty summary. We'll get to the scoring in our second segment. That will give us time for our our full-on stats for this game, and our 3 stars right after it with the scoring. But let's start with the penalty summary before we take the first break of the program. And it doesn't need to be very long right now, just to bring things down a notch. The first thing we need to know is that L.A. Tolvanen did score in this game, by the way. Takes the game's first penalty of the game. He goes for hooking, 14 minutes and 28 seconds. Cody Glass, later on, the second period, as the only penalty taken in the first period, would go to Seattle. And that would go to L.A. Tolvanen. And Cody Glass would get a penalty in the second period, one of 2 penalties, ultimately leading to a Kraken goal on the power play. Cody Glass receiving a slashing minor, 2-minute slashing at 15 minutes and 55 seconds. Chris Letang also receives a cross-checking penalty 16 minutes and 35 seconds later. In particular, a minute and 35 seconds later. In the third period later, the Kraken go back on the penalty kill after getting a 5-on-3 in the second period, which they score on, but can't score on the other power play. We'll get to the scoring in the second segment of the show in a second. But moving on in our penalties, after the goalie matchup and the head coach matchup, which we just got in the opening of the program, Joshua Mahara picking up a penalty of his own in this one, and the second of two penalties. The Kraken would never mind. They would take in this game. Second of penalties they would take in this game. And Kevin Hayes, late in the period after 9 minutes and 37 seconds when Joshua Mahara was called for tripping. At that point in time, at 18 minutes and 5 seconds in, Kevin Hayes receives 2 minutes for hooking. The only hooking penalty the Penguins would get on the evening. And I say on the evening because in the Eastern time zone on the East Coast, it was 4 p.m. Eastern, and it was 1 p.m. 1 p.m. Pacific time. All right. Also, during our scoring, we'll make sure to get to, as we go over our stats, we'll make sure to go over stats by period, how the Penguins and the Kraken fared in the period by period, shots on goal, and all the other great stats, all coming up with our scoring summary. And our 3 stars of the game will take us to our second commercial break of the program. But first, we're going to take our first commercial break of the program, and when we come back on Penguins postgame, we'll get you set up for we will actually show you our scoring, rather, in this one. And we will get you into the stats of the game and our 3 stars of the game. That's coming up in a little bit later as we wrap up a couple of things here at Climate Pledge Arena. I am coming to you live from the Penguins postgame show studio in Mississauga, Ontario, Canada. The game between the Penguins and the Kraken was down at Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle, Washington. All right, so we're going to go ahead and take the break. When we come back after this from Broadcast Map, I'll give you the down low on what's coming up on Broadcast Map. Our scoring summary, second period and third period scoring. No scoring in the first period, but the second period and third period scoring coming up next, plus the 3 stars of the game. And right before the 3 stars of the game, it's time to find out how the teams did by the period in shots on goal. And what else was our stat line? How did the Penguins and Kraken do in the faceoff? How did they do on the power play? What is the result of the penalty kill because of the power play and the opportunities? All that and much more when Penguins postgame continues the scoring, game stats by period, and for the game, and 3 stars of the game coming up next after this from Broadcast Map. Stick with us.
Looking for conversations on the world of broadcasting, sports media, and from time to time, my favorite sports teams? Listen to Broadcast Map with me, Ali Musa. To learn more about the show and to view the upcoming schedule, like the Broadcast Map Facebook page. Search Broadcast Map.
Always great to hear from our good buddy Ali over at his podcast Broadcast Map. And speaking of that, let's get to, as promised, an update on how things are going down this week on broadcast map. Here's what's coming up on broadcast map before we continue talking Penguins and Kraken. Game time was 4:09 p.m. Eastern Time, 3:09 p.m. Central, 1:09 p.m. Pacific, 9:09 p.m. in the UK, and 10:09 p.m. in France time. All right. And we'll also get to the scoring when we get to that point of time. So without further ado, let's get into it. And it looks like we got a double header coming up on Tuesday. But starting with Monday, as Ali will be joined in studio by the host of the Walk Off podcast to discuss the Blue Jays acquiring Anthony Santander. Scott Belford will join Ali at 3:15 p.m. on Monday, January 27th, 2025. It will be live. The next two shows include at 2:30 p.m. Dan Meganier, Dan Megair. Dan, if I pronounce your last name wrong, my sincerest apologies. For a What's Going On in Sports and Sports Media chat. That's at 2:30 p.m. And at 4 p.m. Eastern, Justin Trudeau stepping down. What does it mean? Is the early provincial election call in Ontario a good thing for the province? Is it really because of the Trump, whatever it is that Trump is doing? Bra, bra, Brave threat? I'll just say, is it because of the Trump? Is it really because of the Trump threat? Becky Coles will return to the studio of Broadcast Map to discuss with Ali the news. The link to the YouTube channel is where you can catch it all. It'll also be available on a JC hosting, maybe on Sienna T Radio. On Sienna T Radio, making your day brighter one song at a time. Of course, that's where you can catch shows on Saturday like The Melting Pot, the Cosmopolitan Culture Club, and The Hourglass. It's also where you can catch other shows like The Song Bank and the Cosmopolitan Culture Club. You can also listen to Ali's podcast with Sienna, Spicy Techie. It's gonna be a really interesting week on Broadcast Map. With that all being said, all right. With it all being said, let's continue on talking the Penguins and the Kraken. Let's continue talking Pens and Kraken. Here we go. Time now to get into the scoring. So as mentioned before, we start the game with penalties, which is why we started after the head coaches, which are Mike Sullivan. I might have forgotten to do that earlier on, but that's okay. Mike Sullivan and Dan Bilesma. Dan, if I pronounce your last name wrong, I apologize wholeheartedly. You and your family. We also went in over our goaltenders earlier. Went through the penalties. Now let's get to our scoring. That all began in the second period. Reminder, in the second period, there was a penalty that the Seattle Kraken scored on during 5-on-3. That was the Christopher Letang penalty, as Letang would go once again for cross-checking. I meant to say cross-checking. I might have said high sticking before, so just a correction there. In the goal scoring before that, however, Oliver Bjorkstrand picking up goal number 14 on the year. Andre Burakovsky picking up his 14th assist on the year. And Chandler Stevenson picking up one of 2 assists on the day. One of 2 assists on the day. number 26 of the season on the opening goal by the Kraken. Minutes and 16 seconds in. 2 minutes and 34 seconds later after that, Sidney Crosby scores his 14th goal of the season. Rickard Rakell picking up his 19th assist of the season. And Christopher Letang picking up his 12th assist of the season. Letang also took one of those penalties in the second period, which led to the power play goal by Vince Dunn. His 9th goal of the season. 23rd assist of the season for Jared McCann. Chandler Stevenson picking up a assist on the Bjorkstrand goal, number 26 on the year, and number 27 on the year on the Vince Dunn power play goal for SEA. That's PPG for SEA in short. And the Kraken, who got the lead early on the Oliver Bjorkstrand goal, get tied up thanks to the goal by Sidney Crosby, his 14th of the season. Vince Dunn, his 9th goal of the season, gets the Kraken back the lead on the man advantage. So after one period of play, we're looking for the icebreaker. After 2 periods of play, it's the Kraken by a goal at 2-1. 2-1 the score. Kraken on top of the Penguins. In the third period, L.A. Tovovin picks up a goal, his 12th of the season, and only goal of the game. Jared McCann also having a 2-assist night. His second assist of the night coming in on the 24th assist of the day and of the year for him. His 23rd came on the Vince Dunn power play goal. 24th comes on the L.A. Tovovin goal. Shane Wright picking up his 15th assist of the season. 5 minutes and 6 seconds in, the Penguins find themselves back down by 2, and it's 3-1. 3-1 Kraken. And then Matty Beniers pretty much sends this one into the game, into the end of the game. His 11th goal of the season. The former New York Ranger Capo Caco picking up his 20th assist of the season. Kraken go up 4-1, and that is how it would end. 13 minutes and 6 seconds time of the goal. And it would end 4-1, despite the Penguins and the Kraken for the first period of play being all tied up at 7 shots on goal apiece. The Kraken beat the Penguins in the second period, 12-19. Lead it 12-9, I should say. Outshooting the Penguins by 3 shots on goal, 19-16. And after the third period, which was won by the Penguins, 13-6 was the final tally in the third period. The Penguins lose the game, but they outshoot the Kraken 29-25 somehow. So you lost the game, but you outshoot the Kraken. Let's take a look at the rest of our game stats here. 38 face-offs were played in this one. 21 won by the Kraken, winning 33.3% of the, I should say, no, not 33.3, 55.3% of the faceoff. 21 of those faceoffs out of 38 were won by the Kraken. The Penguins picking up 17 wins in the faceoff dot today out of 38. 38 faceoffs total, 17 won by the Penguins, 21 won by the Kraken. The Penguins just about 45% good on the faceoff dot. 17 wins out of 38 faceoffs total. 21 wins for the Kraken out of 38. The penalty kill for the Kraken, perfect 2 for 2. They kill off both opportunities the Penguins have on the man advantage. And their power play, as a result, for the Penguins, 0 for 2. But the penalty kill, 2 for 1. I should say 2 for 3. As the Kraken only score on one opportunity out of the 3. They go 1 for 3 on the power play. They score on the power play. The Penguins don't score. The Kraken penalty kill was good, winning twice on the man advantage. They killed off 2 of those penalties the Penguins had when the Penguins were on the man advantage. And the Kraken, though, score once on the man advantage, but the Penguins kill off the next 2 penalties that they faced. I should say the next penalty that they faced for Kevin Hayes. They kill off penalty in this one. All right, moving on. 4 minutes in the penalty box for the Kraken. 6 for the Penguins in the penalty box today. The Kraken were out hit by the Penguins 21-14, but they won the battle in the blocked shots, blocking 15 of Pittsburgh's shots, Pittsburgh's 11 blocked shots. Pittsburgh finishing the night with 9 giveaways and 6 takeaways. 8 giveaways and 8 takeaways for the Seattle Kraken. So not too shabby for the Penguins or the Kraken. But that is our game stats of the game. And now it's time for our 3 stars of the game. Our 3 stars of the game on the Penguins Radio Network, as we all know. They are brought to you by your neighborhood sports stores. Ford, cars, trucks, and SUVs are the official vehicles of the Pittsburgh Penguins. But here on Sports for Beginners, we don't have a sponsor for that. So, with that being said, we're just going to bring them to you. But if you would like to get in on the action, head on over to our Discord server, Sports for Beginners Podcast 8231 at gmail.com. That is our email address. Our Discord server is Penguins Postgame Show Interaction, and that's where you can send your 3 stars of the game, your play of the game puck of the game, shake of the game, and much more. Alrighty, so let's get into our 3 stars of this game, and our 3rd star is Vince Dunn. 1 goal, no assist, 1 point. Our 2nd star is 2 assists, points, no goals. It's Jared McCann. Number 19, Jared McCann. And your 1st star, number 35, Joey Decord. Joey Decord is your 1st star of the game. A goals against average of 1. Save percentage of 966. Joey Daccord, Jared McCann, and Vince Dunn are your 3 stars of the game. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, yeah, I'd love to give credit to Crosby for the goal, but not a lot of goal scoring going on for the Penguins in this one. And also, you got to give Joey Daccord his flowers here. 28 of the 29 shots that the Penguins threw at Joey Daccord. I shouldn't say threw at Joey Daccord. Tested Joey Daccord with, I'll say, were stopped. And the Kraken do cruise by the Penguins. They also win the season series. We're talking about what's next for the Penguins and the Kraken in a few segments, in one segment time or so. But that'll do it for this segment of the program. Coming up in the next segment, it's time for the play of the game and the shake of the game, and the late window of action in Hockey Night in Canada, as well as our Saturday action, is going down right now. The 7 o'clock games are going down. We'll recap the early window finals besides our game, and the game's going down right now in the second period from the early window of our Saturday night hockey night. Of course, Thomas will have it all for you, including our game, I'm sure, on the latest episode of Maple Leaf Post Recap. If not, that's fine. It's completely okay. With that said, Penguins postgame will take a quick timeout to hear a word from the aforementioned Sienna P radio and on the ice and behind the benches, before we come right back with our play of the game, brought to you by on the Penguins Radio Network, Rivers Casino, Pittsburgh's entertainment destination. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. We are not sponsored by that, but that's coming up next. Plus, it's time for the shake of the game, and right off the jump, after the word from on the ice and behind the benches and Sienna P radio, what's going down in the early night window of our Saturday night hockey action, and what else went down in the early window. A look around the NHL, shake of the game, and the play of the game when we return. Stick with us. You're listening to Pittsburgh Penguins hockey on Penguins postgame. That will be right back on Sports for Beginners in just a moment. Stick with us.
Looking for a good hockey podcast that covers your favorite hockey teams and mine? Check out On the Ice and Behind the Benches, where we chat about our favorite hockey teams from puck drop to the last play of the action. To learn more, follow the On the Ice and Behind the Benches Facebook page. Search On the Ice and Behind the Benches.
Looking for conversations on books and more, as well as tutorials on using your favorite devices and applications? You've come to the right place. Join us weekly on Spicy Techie, where Ali and Sienna provide insightful conversations, as well as useful tips and tricks to help you along on your technological journey. To learn more, tune into the show and like the Spicy Techie Facebook page. Search for Spicy Techie.
Welcome back to Penguins postgame. Penguins and the Kraken. Penguins fall to the Kraken 4-1. They lose the season series to the Kraken 2-0, I should say. We have broken down the game. We broke up the scoring and the penalties. Penalties took place in the opening segment during our recap of our goaltending matchup and our head coaches. Our scoring and game stats and 3 stars followed in the second segment. Here in our third segment, it's time for the play of the game and our shake of the game. Before we can get there, let's dive in to some action in and around the league. Starting off with during our game and before our game, Boston Bruins defeat the Colorado Avalanche 3-1 in Beantown today. Down in Edmonton, the Oilers survive the Buffalo Sabres with goals by Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. He had 2 of them. Jeff Skinner, Alex Tuch, and Yuri Pillow. Anyways, Alex Tuch, Jeff Skinner, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, some of the notable goal scorers in this one. 3-2, the final. The Oilers beat the Sabres 3-2. Bruins beat the Avalanche 3-1. Ongoing right now, the Maple Leafs are tied at a goal apiece. Goals off the stick of Tim Stützle and Bobby McMahon. They are in the second period right now. Hosting the Stars. The Stars currently hold a 2-goal lead with Evgeny Donanov and Isa Lindell picking up the 2 goals for the Stars. That's a 2-0 lead for the Stars in the second period. Devils were up 2-0. Now they are up 2-1 as Nick Suzuki is the most recent scorer. But they were down 2-0 at the end of one period of play. At the end of one period of play, the Red Wings leading 1-0 after going into the first intermission, it tied at 0. Kings and Blue Jackets tied out a goal apiece in the second intermission with 2 goals on the board, both in the first period. 1 to Philip Darno and 1 to Zach Growinski. Calgary Flames on top of the Minnesota Wild 2-1. And the Carolina Hurricanes on top 2-1 on the New York Islanders. That one in the second period. Flames and the Wild also in the second period. And every game I've just mentioned right now that's ongoing is in the second period. Coming into the next few games, 3 games left on the slate, all at 10 o'clock. The Predators taking on the Ducks in Anaheim at 10 p.m. Eastern. Coming up later on Hockey Night in Canada, the Canucks host the Capitals on Sportsnet and wherever you can find the game. The Sharks, meanwhile, who the Penguins will face on Monday night, host the Florida Panthers from the Shark Tank at 10 p.m. Eastern as well. So we've still got Ducks, Predators, Capitals, Canucks, and Sharks, Panthers still to come on the Saturday slate. All right. That took us a little while. But with that said, it is time for our play of the game. Play of the game, as I mentioned earlier on, before we took the break, brought to you by Rivers Casino on the Pittsburgh Penguins radio network. Gambling Pro, call 1-800-GAMBLER, Pittsburgh's entertainment destination. Gambling Pro, call 1-800-GAMBLER. We are not sponsored by it, so here we go with our play of the game. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and say that my play of the game is going to go to Vince Dunn. Really nice job of setting the tempo for the Penguins, letting them know that if they think they're going to get away with a lead, they got to score. And I also really like what I saw from L.A. Tovovin and Matty Beniers, but the power play goal from Vince Dunn stands out to me as my play of the game for this one. This ultimately made it 2-1 Kraken over the Penguins. And the Kraken by far were the better team, considering the fact that they were scoring twice in the second period and twice in the third period. They got the power play goal, which was ultimately the difference. And Joey Decord backstopped the Penguins to give the Kraken the lead and the win, and a well-deserved win for the Kraken. I would have preferred the Penguins getting a little revenge against Jan Bilesma, but you know what? In the end, it's a game, and you win some, you lose some, but you definitely can't win if you can't score. Game break update before we get to the shake of the game. Thomas Tatar has made it a 3-1 lead for the New Jersey Devils in the Montreal Canadiens game. And let's see if we have any more changes. Nope, no more changes as of yet. No more changes as of yet. Only the 3-1 score. All right, time now for the shake of the game. Inspired by the ad that is now run by Brian Rust, the Rusty Razor. It was usually run by Jay Gensel, a former Penguin player, now a Tampa Bay Lightning player, and that guy, Jake Gensel, who I just mentioned, he is headed in the intermission right now, trailing 1-0 against the Red Wings, heading into the final moments of that second period, as they are actually headed to the intermission. The third period is coming up real soon. But first, a rest, and a lot more to come after that. Second period underway. Senators and the Maple Leaf Penguins played the Kraken earlier today. Final score once again 4-1. Our shake of the game, inspired by the Jake Gensel Milkshake Factory ad, now run by Brian Rust. Remember, Penguin fans, anytime Brian Rust scores, of course, he is injured right now, but when he returns, anytime he scores during a Penguins hockey game, if he scores, you score half off Rusty Shakes the next day at the Milkshake Factory. And every time I bring this up, I always like to bring up the question. If you've tried a Rusty Shake and a Jake Shake before, I've never tried them, but if you've tried one of the above, let me know which one you think is better, Rusty Shake or Jake Shakes. They're available at the Milkshake Factory, providing you the official milkshake of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Milkshake Factory, the official milkshake of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Tonight, we're going to give a shake of the game We're going to give one out to each team. And an honorable mention is going to get the game puck of the game in one segment time, because that will be when we set up our next 5 for the Kraken and next 5 for the Penguins. So that's coming up in a matter of moments. But before we get to that, let's take a look at today's sole Shake of the Game recipient. And if we had a sponsor in the Milkshake Factory, which is the official milkshake of the Pittsburgh Penguins, this could be brought to you by the Milkshake Factory, providing you the official milkshake of the Pittsburgh Penguins. But until then, it's just something that we are going to roll on with. So, for me, I'm going to give it to Joel Blomqvist for the Penguins. I really thought 4 goals given up, 3 goals at even strength, 1 on the power play. 59 minutes, 36 seconds on the ice. 840 save percentage, 840 save percentage. Yeah, it wasn't a good night. It wasn't a good day for Joel Blomqvist by any stretch of the imagination. But you know what? I still think he performed well. 21 saves on 25 shots. 4 of those shots went in the back of the net as even strength as goals against, I should say. 3 of them were at even strength, and 1 of them a power play goal. Surprised we didn't have another, the shorty, a short-handed goal, but we could have had one of those if the Kraken played their cards right when they were on the penalty kill. And with that, well, Bloomquist is going to get the shake of the game for the Penguins today. The shake of the game is going to go over on the Kraken side. It is going to go to not their goaltender. It's going to go to goal. It's going to go to goal scorer L.A. Tobelvin. Now, L.A. Tobelvin didn't score any assists in this. He didn't score any assists in this one, but he did score a goal in this game, which is good enough for a point. Yes, spent 2 minutes in the box, but the dude really tried to put the puck on the net. Also, he was hitting all over the ice. 4 hits in this game for L.A. Tobelvin. All right, so Joel Blomqvist and L.A. Tobelvin are the shake of the game recipients. An honorable mention as part of our game puck of the game. We'll get our game puck of the game when we come back in 30 seconds. Right after this word from our local station. Perhaps it's our weekly in sports podcast studio. We'll take a 30-second timeout and wrap it up on the other side. The next 5 for the Kraken and the Penguins. Game puck of the game. Coming up in 30 seconds when we return to wrap up Penguins postgame. And we'll take one final look at the action to see if anything changes. So be sure to stick with us for that. If anything changes in the early evening window of those games at 7 p.m. Eastern that are going down right now. Setting up the next 5 And the game puck of the game, the Kraken next 5, the Penguins next 5, coming up next. And the game puck of the game, plus what else is going down between the Maple Leaf, Senators, and elsewhere around the league. Stick with us because we wrap this up in 30 seconds.
CNT Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down. Nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
Looking for a sports podcast that covers sports weekly as well as gets you set up for the day? Check out Weekly in Sports with me, Scott McGregor. We give some shout-outs of the week to podcasts like this one and those who do them. Discuss the Blue Jays, Bills, Raptors, and more. To learn more, check out the Sports for Beginners Facebook page. Search Sports for Beginners.
Rolling right along here to close out the program. Penguins and the Kraken. Kraken win the series 2-0. They sweep the Pittsburgh Penguins 2-0. Sweep the season series with the Penguins. And even though they were outshot 29-25, they pick up the dub, and that's all that matters. Time now for the game puck of the game. And with that, we're going to go to one of our honorable mentions for the shake of the game. Starting with the Seattle Kraken. And it's going to go to the goaltender I mentioned earlier that was not going to get the shake of the game. Joey Decord, I think he's deserving of a game puck of the game. And ultimately, I think he was very dominant in this game. Yes, a goal given up on even strength. It was the only goal given up in the game. Hence the 4-1 victory over the Penguins. And not only that, the Penguins lost on home ice. And they lose on the road to the Kraken. So they can't beat the Kraken. But you know what? That's okay. A quick shout out before we get to the Penguins game puck of the game recipient in a moment. Who are going to get to that in a moment. But a quick shout out to our good friend over at the Locked On Podcast Network, Erica Lindsay Ayala, host of the program Locked On. Locked On Kraken, your daily centric podcast on the Seattle Kraken. So shout out to our good friend Erica Lindsay Ayala, host of Locked On Kraken. Hope you enjoyed the game, Erica. It's great that the Kraken beat the Penguins, but I mean, we could have seen a better effort from the Penguins in this one. Could have seen a better effort from the Penguins in this one. Good news, they didn't get shut out. But you can't win if you can't score. And yes, you scored one goal. Yes, the Penguins scored one goal in this one. But you can't win if you can't score. And I'll leave it at that. Game puck of the game for the Penguins. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and give it to Sidney Crosby. I'm going to go ahead and give it to Sidney Crosby. The only goal scorer in this one. His stats speak for themselves. And I also would have thought of him as an honorable mention. And speaking of that, let's just take a quick moment before we get to the next 5. Let's take a quick moment and reflect on some of the comments from the game after the game as the Penguins fell 4-1 to the Kraken. Let's see if we have anything. So we have Kevin Hayes. We're going to go with what Kevin Hayes said. Kevin Hayes said, we're giving up easy offense, and a lot of mistakes are ending up in the back of the net, and we're not scoring on our chances, too. Everyone's working hard. Everyone in this room wants to win. It's frustrating these last couple of losses that we've had. Mike Sullivan also said, I thought for the majority of the game we carried the play, but you can't hand teams easy offense like we did. When you look at the goals that they scored, it's just too easy. It's just too easy. It's just too easy. Obviously, it makes it hard when you do that. The rookie BI, I'm going to call it BI. Sorry if I pronounced the name wrong earlier. He said joining in Pittsburgh, according to what Michelle Cracchiolo said, he said joining Pittsburgh in Seattle was a little bit unexpected as we were on the road already with Scranton, but it's always nice to be called up. Yes, it is. It is. And I do agree with Michelle Cracchiolo. I do agree with Michelle Cracchiolo of Penn Insights. I do agree with her. I do agree with her. I do agree with her. B.I. Boko Ama. Boko Ayama. He did have a solid game, bringing the energy, physicality, and drawing penalties. He had a really interesting game. And yeah, our final numbers. Yeah, I mean, look, you win some, you lose some. All right, just a reminder of our game puck of the game recipients. Did the Crosby for the Penguins, and for the Kraken, we went to goaltender Joey Decord. All right, now it's time to put a bow on this show. Penguins fall 4-1 to the Kraken. They lose the season series to the Kraken. They lose the season series to the Kraken. And here is what is coming up for the Seattle Kraken. As we speak with you, here is what is coming up for Seattle. Their next 5 game nights, they go back in action against the Edmonton Oilers on Monday night. They'll take on the Oilers on Monday night as they start to wrap up their January schedule. 9:30 p.m. Eastern is the start time for the Oiler game. That's on Monday night, but it's a quick turnaround for the Kraken as they will play on Tuesday night as well, January 28th, 2025. They'll take on the Anaheim Ducks at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, and the Oiler game is at 6:30 Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Central, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. The Ducks game at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Central, and that's on Tuesday against the Ducks. Oilers is on Monday. On to Thursday, they'll play in the Shark Tank in San Jose at 10:30 p.m. Here in Seattle as they kick off. They're on a one-night road trip right now, kicking off a 1, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 4, 5, yes, 5-game homestand their to close out the month of January, a 5-game homestand leading into February, 3 games in February at home, games here in January, one against the Ducks on Tuesday, the next one against the Sharks on Thursday, January 30th, 2025 at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. They will then play the Calgary Flames at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Pacific. And that will be in Seattle, Washington as well. That is on Sunday, February 2nd, 2025. They'll take on the Detroit Red Wings at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Central on Tuesday night. So they'll have the Oilers on Monday, the Ducks on Tuesday, Sharks on Thursday. On Sunday, February 2nd, they will have the Calgary Flames. And then the Red Wings are in town on Tuesday, February 4th, 2025. Before that homestand wraps up with the Seattle Kraken taking on the Toronto Maple Leafs at 10 p.m. Eastern on February 6th, 2025. All right, on the next 5 for the Penguins. It begins with a showdown, a night owl showdown in the Shark Tank, a battle in the Shark Tank. As we go to the Shark Tank, the Penguins will take on the Sharks. Puck drop in the evening is at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 9:30 p.m. Central, 7:30 p.m. Pacific on Monday night. Yes, that's right. Monday night. Back at it with the Utah Hockey Club on Wednesday night, 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 8:30 p.m. Central, 6:30 p.m. Pacific time in Salt Lake City, Utah, taking on the Utah Hockey Club. That'll close out the 7-game homestand as they're now 2 games away from ending their 7-game road trip. The 7-game road trip for the Penguins wraps up in Utah on Wednesday and begins a 2-game homestand that will see the Penguins take on the Predators and the Devils. Predators on February the 1st at 7 p.m. Eastern. Devils on Tuesday night, February 4th at 7 p.m. as well. They will then hit the road to begin a 2-game road trip that will end in Philadelphia on a back-to-back that will wrap up the Penguins' schedule for February until after the Four Nations tournament, because then the action gets back going with the Washington Capitals and another back-to-back for the Penguins. It's a 2-game homestand before a home-and-home series winds us right back at the Battle of PA. So the next 5 for the Penguins: Sharks Monday, Hockey Club Wednesday, Predators next Saturday, and the following Tuesday on the 4th of February, we've got the Devils, followed by on one Friday from this Friday, it's the Rangers taking on the Penguins from MSG, from Madison Square Garden. Let's see how the Rangers and the Penguins fare, looking a lot different in the last two games since the Penguins have played the Rangers. In the last two games of that 4-game season series, we're going to find out how the Rangers and the Penguins fare. Maybe the Rangers have a little bit of more jump in their step than they did in the last two games, even though they've won those games. But I'm sure we'll find out. Maybe the Penguins can find a way to get even in that series. We will see. As for the Seattle Kraken, they will not play Pittsburgh for the rest of the season. So Pittsburgh is off to San Jose. Then they'll play in Utah, and then it's back home against the Devils, Predators, and then the Rangers are a stop at Madison Square Garden before the Penguins head back to the other side of Pennsylvania for another edition of the Battle of PA. One Battle of PA is in the book. 3 more to come, and they come in February. But with that is going to do it for this episode of Penguins Postgame. Thank you so much for listening to the show / watching. Of course, it's been audioed. This is audio all. But you know what? Thank you guys so much for joining us here on the podcast today. Enjoy the rest of the hockey night. Enjoy the rest of the hockey action tonight. We've got the Canucks taking on the Capitals at 10 o'clock. The Ducks hosting the Predators. And the Predators are also and the Panthers are in San Jose. They're in San Jose for a good one. Sharks and the Panthers, Ducks and Predators, Canucks and Capitals, all coming up in a couple moments time. As some of our 7 o'clock games go into the third period. What will the final score be between the Senators and the Maple Leafs? And if you're interested in some basketball action, the Raptors lead 64-55 right now. Make that 67-55 right now. In the second half, into the third quarter of play, as the Atlanta Hawks trail the Raptors 67-55. All right. As always, Penguins Nation, love one another. Penguins fall 4-1 at Climate Pledge Arena today. My name is Scott McGregor. Elvis has just left the building. We're back with another Penguins postgame show for you on Tuesday. Following the Night Owl game on Monday night. Sharks and the Penguins. Let's see what happens down in San Jose as the Penguins look to bounce back from a 4-1 loss today against the Seattle Kraken. We'll see what the Penguins have in store for the San Jose Sharks. It's off to the Shark Tank next time on Penguins Postgame. Let's go Pen.
Ladies and gentlemen, Elvis has just left the building. You've just listened to Pittsburgh Penguins hockey on the Sports for Beginners podcast. To learn more about the show and to view the upcoming schedule, like the Sports for Beginners Facebook page. Search Sports for Beginners or visit the official Sports for Beginners podcast website. Thanks for listening, and until next time, stay tuned. And remember that it is not goodbye, it is until next time. And you'd have to be here to believe it.